help. I was here. Hopefully he'll do all right. I mean, apparently he didn't know her very long before he was already trying to run away. Now he feels responsible for her because she's kind of stuck here. But we should probably go into the things that the Tillamook PD said. All right. Well, first of all, I want to state as a fact that I called out the situation before it happened. I called out the last few days before they happened because I've met people with her personality type, and holy fuck, we have literally hundreds of women just like her all over the United States, some of them varying degrees. She's probably one of the worst, but I've met worse, just in a different way. With her personality type, yeah, she's definitely out there. Now she's got it together, as in she's intelligent, highly intelligent. She knows that her stories are bullshit, which, that's something where you do get people out here who think that they're actually special ops, and they're absolutely not. Or they actually think they're part of the CIA. That's delusional. Telling lies because you want people to like you, that's not delusional. And a lot of people out here do that. Or telling lies because you don't want somebody to believe your or your victims. Maybe you were victimized by somebody, and you don't think that most people will think it's a big major deal. That guy just grabbed your ass. Most people tell you he just grabbed your ass. You should, not make such a big deal out of it. So, of course, you've already made a big deal out of it to him, and, he's running around telling everybody that you're some fucking crazy lady. Well, then you start telling people that he raped you, because you don't think that he should get away with grabbing your ass, and you don't think that people should be treating you like crap. You were the one who had your ass grabbed. You're the fucking victim in this. So what do? You spread a rumor that he raped you, and then people don't want to believe you at all. You have outright lied in the wrong way, but that's one of those three lies that if you don't get what you want out of a man and you want to punish him, you're angry, you didn't get what you wanted. Women have this option that men don't. If a man makes one of those three claims about a woman, nobody cares. They tell him to man up. See, also the predators who are going to tell the lies. Like she had her ass grabbed, and then he goes around and tells everybody that she's crazy. So then people are treating her like she's crazy. He's going out there, making up stories about her, things that didn't happen, saying things like, oh, well, she was coming on to me. I had to tell her, hey, get the hell away from me. Now, then there's situations like with me, I save evidence of the things that I said. I save evidence of the things that I did. Even the things I did out of necessity. A lot of the stuff the cops said last night, they wanted to focus primarily on the camping in the city. Well, I'm not interested in camping in the city. I've seen people and spoken to people for the last few days all telling me about their tents being moved or their stuff being trashed. One guy come up to me and was telling me, I had to get a new tent. Thank goodness the people that came through and cleaned everything out of my camp, they came and stole everything. He said, but thank goodness they took out the trash too, but they left my tent there with a broken zipper. So yeah, I'm not interested in camping in city limits. And when they were telling me the laws and the rules and stuff, they were focusing just on the city stuff. That's what they were focusing on. The whole national forest thing, you're allowed to boondock. You can look the laws up, but you see, he was trying to deter me from that. Well, it's not illegal. Any of the actual campsites you have to pay at, but boondocking, you pull over to the side of the road and you can camp, but not literally on the side of the road. That's one of the tough things. In order to boondock, you basically have to hoof it out there on foot. It's during situations like that that a vehicle becomes a detriment. But then again, my vehicle is full of stuff that I can't carry. My disabilities prevent me from carrying it. There's also the sheer quantity of it. You know, this started off as just a phone and a backpack. All right, sorry, 2 phones and a backpack. That I tried to get those officers to look at in the Natalie situation. Sorry, 2 phones, a backpack, and a laptop. Matter of fact, the stuff that was in that backpack was the very same stuff that when Natalie claimed that she wanted to meet up with me in December 2017, it's about 2 weeks before she died, when she claimed that she wanted to meet up with me. You know, she could have just had a conversation with me, just talk to me like a human being instead of doing the whole texting and fucking playing victim bullshit and pretending all this bullshit. I mean, this lady over here is doing exactly the same thing that nearly all of the women who fucked up and did fucked up things and lied to me and wasted my time and wasted my resources and took advantage of me. And then afterwards, they want to play like they're victims. Well, cops do the exact same thing. We have taught cops to act like women in the United States. And women aren't inherently that way. These are learned behaviors. Learned behaviors. You hear all this moral stuff that comes out of people's mouths, but then you see what works. Talking nicely doesn't get you heard. It don't. Screaming at the top of your fucking lungs will get you heard. People don't fucking care, though. Rather than do something to help you, they'd rather lock you up because you screamed. Oh, you're interrupting our peaceful day. Well, you don't have a peaceful day. You're turning away from harm of others. You're a fucked up person. If you see your neighbor raping his daughter and you say nothing, you are a predator at that point. You are helping predators to get away by saying nothing. Your silence is violence. I hear that often. I also live the consequences. It's not my silence. I speak up every day for a reason, because this is the reality. Most of us out here on the streets are out here because our families don't give a fuck. A lot of people who are out here do have drug addictions. Both predators and victims alike. Abuse is the gateway drug. And most of these predators were victims growing up. Which means that most of the actions of these predators are learned behaviors. Whether that be sexual, which is, well, as we've come to find recently, much more prevalent among female culture than male culture, which we have been teaching the opposite for at least the entirety of my life. We've taught that men are the violent ones of the species. Men start the violence, and men are always quick to jump to violence. Throughout the entirety of my life, I have seen countless men beaten on publicly by women and then berated because they didn't hit the woman back. Ha ha, you got beat up by a girl. It's a power and control thing, and we allow women to express their rage and hatred in that way. They're allowed to. We will look the other way to a woman beating on a man. We will tell a 14-year-old boy whose 38-year-old teacher, who is a female, who is now pregnant with his kid, we'll tell him stuff like he should be just glad that he got laid. How messed up is that of a society to tell a boy that? Now, when you've been in a situation enough, or a particular type of personality, you already know that it's best to step away from that person. That lady, I did step away from her. It was Tom I didn't step away from. I recognized his personality too. She'll take him for all he's worth with that whole sob story thing. You didn't get what you want, time to put on the waterworks. You got to see how Scott DaCosta and Leslie Snell, on multiple occasions, worked together to prevent me from being able to go to court or even safely be in chapel. Prevented me from having a safe place to work on what it is that I needed to work on to take them to court. Forced me into a new situation in a new place. Anybody, not just an autistic person, anybody who is forced to move to a new place is going to need some time to transition. And I had to leave for my fucking safety and for the safety of my sister. And you've gotten to hear a lot of people on my channel talk about how they think that I should have gone and killed those people. I should have hunted them down like dogs. When I speak out about how wrong it is that these people who I'm trying to go to for help getting these bastards into court, and these people's solutions is to harm people. And then, of course, they want to make fun of me or say I'm less of a man because I'm going to the cops, or at least trying to go to the cops, instead of going and killing people like Leslie Snell. Instead of going and killing people like Tim Beeson and Ted Bollinger. Instead of going and killing people like Waylon Lolatai. These people, their solution for everything is fucking violence, from Sarah Bacon on forward. Shannon Alvarado wasn't all violent like that. She did on a few occasions say that she believed that certain people should be killed. But she wasn't one of those people who was always pushing that. She had other stuff, conspiracy theories and tinfoil hat stuff. She's perfectly fine most of the day, but the moment she starts drinking, that's when the tinfoil hat comes on and she's stuck on it. Like those officers last night, their ignorance of the situation resulted in an assumption of the situation that they just kept on recycling at me. I had already told them that I was trying to do the thing with care and with helping hands. I explained to them that her and I were going to do that and that that's not going to happen. They wanted to keep on encouraging me to go do that, which, of course, that's what my plan has been. If it wasn't for trying to help Tom out, and they're not getting the fact that her and Tom are not an item. Okay, Tom was trying to escape her. He had his stuff next to my vehicle, trying to hide it next to my vehicle. He even went so far as sleeping in a chair, but covering his head with a blanket so that she wouldn't know it was him. But his friends that were going to come and help him, they didn't actually do that. They didn't actually come get his stuff next to my vehicle. I just had to hurry up and wait and hurry up and wait. And the whole time that I'm trying to help him out, she is creating all this fucking drama. He's not creating it. He's trying to get the fuck away from it. And I'm trying to help him get away from it. And when the cops are like, basically trying to talk me out of doing anything for him, I explained to them, if he calls me and asks me for help, I'm going to help him. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. Anyway, I messaged him this morning, and I let him know that I was thankful that he's doing what he's doing, because most people with somebody like that wouldn't try to get her back home. I mean, she's getting worse daily. That guy's 80 years old. If she takes advantage of him, it is elderly abuse. For her saying she needs this and she needs that and so on and so forth, and then he goes and buys it and brings it back so that she will stop complaining so much, and then she complains that he bought stuff. After all that moving of his stuff, he moved all of his stuff from the camp over to next to my vehicle so that she wouldn't see it. She could see it from camp. Then he moved it all the way down to the end of the Fred Meyer parking thing so that he would be seen taking it from that side so that it wouldn't look like it was next to my car. And then, of course, he was telling me, well, I'll just tell her I found it behind Goodwill. I'm like, well, I didn't think that was a very good idea. I mean, I figured he ought to just fess up that he was trying to leave and he grabbed his stuff and was intending on leaving. And, he told me he'd explain that to her. But, she put on the waterworks. And although that wasn't going to work on the other 4 people that she was screaming and yelling at, Alexander wasn't going to accept it. That guy who is on my channel, he's recorded first thing in the morning arguing with her, and I thought it was Alexander. Nope, it was a guy with some signs just trying to panhandle enough for breakfast, Wanted to get coffee and what else? I can't remember. But he wasn't out there making $1 billion or anything. Neither did I. He did make a few dollars in front of me, though, which is nice. I've had a few people tell me they're my good luck charm, including that guy with the 2 dogs there in Hood River. Me and him have conflicting personalities. That is for certain. Anyway, this is really the way it is. Either you take the victimization, you take the abuse, you take the punishment, or you will be punished. Well, you're punished either way. You might as well speak up, right? Yeah. Don't be a coward. A lot of victims don't come forward because they care what other people think. You treat a man like he's you get to see how many people treated me like I'm a pussy, in their words. I don't have a tail and I don't meow. Meow. But that's how men are treated when they try to get help. Like they're cowards. And it's even worse when you're disabled or elderly. I mean, he is elderly. He's 80 years old. That's pretty old. He's still kicking, and she's giving him a lot of stress. And he comes over to me often, and sometimes it's just a few short sentences, and sometimes he'll tell me about her for a few minutes. I did try to redirect several conversations that he would have had about her because I didn't want him to spill all the beans, and there was some stuff that I was working on that I wanted to get some information on, and there was also the dinosaurs. Good distraction. But really, I shouldn't have distracted him. I should have let him say what it is that he wanted to say, especially since I was recording. He's got a ability to walk up real quietly. So sometimes he'll just walk up to me and start talking to me, and I don't have it recorded already, or don't have the recording going already. So even if I do turn it on, it's going to miss the very beginning. But of course, with the stuff that's been happening with her over the last few days, it's pretty easy to telegraph it based on her personality type and the way that she treats people. And his beef is exactly the same as mine, the same as Alexander's, the same as that guy yesterday morning. You got to hear her and him, same thing. She's like that with everyone. Excuse me, I'm talking. Don't interrupt me. And you get to hear that on the video. I mean, this is everyone. This is gonna drive anyone nuts. Tom was trying to flee that because it was driving him nuts. And if it wasn't for the fact that he's actually a decent guy, and he does feel responsible for getting her the hell out of here. So I didn't send him any questions or anything like that. I don't expect him to reply to me or anything. He probably will anyway. He tends to. But I let him know if he needs me. I'm not like ditching him or anything like that. I'm still in the area. If he needs my help, he'll get it. You also get to hear the cops as far as the laws that I looked up. I looked them up. So when I was telling him what the law said and he was agreeing, of course he was agreeing. That's one of the things about the law is that, when you know what the law is, the hospitals know this, the cops in Hood River know this, the cops in the Dalles know this, the people from the Department of Health and Human Services know this. But they play stupid. And this guy isn't the first officer that I've recorded, admitting that I'm telling the truth. The situation with the meth, the situation with how the mentally ill are treated, there's a lot of this stuff that these people do take as mandated reporter training. When you have an at-risk adult who is in a state of crisis who goes in, though, they forget their mandated reporter training. Goes right out the window. Not all officers are that way, just like not all homeless people are drug addicts. Now, that guy last night, obviously, when he was saying that I was sober, well, yeah, that's because I'm sober. Well, actually, he said I wasn't on drugs, but that's because, yeah, I don't do drugs. When somebody's in a heightened state of, or a heightened emotional state, they're going to talk faster. They're going to, well, a lot of y'all call it rambling. But that's how you can tell which person in a situation, in many occasions, if you know the difference between meth use and abuse, especially if you've got experience in it, especially long-term experience, well, there's a difference between you've got one person who's calm and saying that person's crazy, and you've got somebody like Zach Boatman screaming about how they're Lucifer. Yeah, Zach Boatman saying that he's Lucifer and, talking 400 miles an hour. He's probably on meth. He does use meth. He also is schizophrenic. So then you've got, someone who is schizophrenic and delusional and on meth. And this person who's calm is like, hey, that guy over there, well, probably at least a little heightened, but less so because the cops are there. Hopefully that's supposed to be help for you in houses. That might be how it is. When you don't live in a house and the cops show up, you've got that anxiety because most cops are hobo hunters. Every cop in America is taught how to be a hobo hunter. The constituents want certain things, and even if it's illegal or immoral, well, if the cops want to keep their jobs, That officer last night did treat me different than most of the cops I talked to, did he not? But he also did the same, talking over me because of his assumption. He just wanted to impress that point over and over and over again. And I got the point. What he was asking me to do, I'd told him at the very beginning that that's what I was working on. When he wanted to make them a package deal, no, they're not a package deal. Even two married people are not a package deal. If a married man or married woman is trying to get away from their spouse, they have the right to do so. They have the right to leave. They have the right to flee abuse. Now, a lot of people say, hey, you should mind your own business. Do you know why people say that? It's because there are so many women. It is so prevalent for women to create a lot of fucking drama and controversy over nothing because they're taught to do so. This isn't something that's inherent in every woman by any means. I'm thankful that there are women in the United States who have been raised in the United States to be this way, to see these things happening around them and not to take part. But even many of them told me in their younger years, yeah, they used their looks and flirting or feminine issues that they weren't really having in order to get out of a ticket, speeding ticket, traffic ticket, whatever. That doesn't work for men. Then there's the fact that because they're women, there's people like me, and of course, people like Tom who were raised that, yeah, you protect women. That is what you do. But me, I'm not sexist. I'll protect the men too. That's where Tom was getting lucky. He just wanted to get away from her, and fuck, that wasn't going to work. She wasn't going to allow that. When he went over there yesterday to explain the situation to her, or rather, that's what he said he was going to do. He went over there and he came back, and I thought he was going to explain the situation. He didn't, apparently, because he was telling me that he had explained to her not to come anywhere near my vehicle. And, you know, if she did, then that was it. He wasn't going to fucking help her anymore. So the first thing she did was come over to my vehicle and pretend like she was trying to be nice and walk all the way around my vehicle, look at his stuff. You know, the first thing that she did was break the rules. The rules don't apply to women. Our social bias prevents it. And these officers know it too. Now, that officer last night, the stuff that he verified, well, that's important. When I look up the laws, I look them up. We got to hear Tara Smith verifying a whole lot of stuff that you guys wanted to pretend I was wrong about. We got to hear a lot of different government agents and agencies. I do consider a police officer and a deputy government agents. They work for the local government. They're supposed to, anyway. They're supposed to work for the local government and the local people. But they don't. They work just for the local government. The local government is there based on what the constituents vote for. So when they tell the cops to do what the people want, it's not necessarily constitutional, or it's outright and blatantly breaking the law, but the constituents are fine with it. And therefore, the city council and local government agencies are fine with it. You don't want to see homelessness. You don't want to see poverty. With me recording things, that actually prevents a lot of situations from escalating. That makes it so that officers that are in a situation can see that they're being recorded. They can see plainly and clearly that there is a recording device there and present, and it is on. And that helps to some degree to get them to behave themselves. Now, those officers in Rawlins, Wyoming didn't give a shit. They knew that, well, they were assholes to start with because they didn't know they were being recorded. That was over the phone. So then when I went to meet them outside, well, they continued their assholery. And when they noticed that it was being recorded, they knew it wasn't being recorded live. And so they just stole my evidence and refused to give it back until I pled guilty to a crime I didn't commit. Now, that's not something that the police can do on their own. That's something that they have to coordinate with the local public pretender and the local magistrate or judge, and also the, what do you call that? The prosecutor's office. So all of these people have to work together in order to make something like that happen. When I say the police, we're not talking about just the police. We are talking about systemic abuse of the most at-risk people in the country. We're talking about how they make laws and they try to twist and manipulate it to tell you all that it's some good thing that's going to help keep you and your kids safe. But in reality, the laws that they're passing, they're not doing that. They're denying innocent people their rights under the Constitution. I mean, they have this mentally ill court. That's what they call it in the jail. It's if you're called mentally ill in Colorado, they wanted to make a special law so that they can have special court with just that person and just the judge and the prosecutor and the public pretender. So they can have court without you while you're in the room and there's nobody there to see it. How messed up is that? That's unconstitutional, but somehow they were able to convince the people of the state of Colorado that this unconstitutional act, which is used statewide to victimize the homeless, they convinced these idiots that taking away those rights was a good thing. Well, now a legal precedence has been set. If they can take them away from one group, they can take them away from all of you. Stupid. A lot of what the cops are getting away with right now, as far as the crimes that they commit against black folks, Native Americans, and others. Most of the numbers, if you look at BLM, most of those numbers come from people who are homeless black people. And all the cops have to say is, well, we didn't target him for being black, we targeted him for being homeless. Or we targeted him for breaking the law. And then they push the fact that he was homeless. If you tell a jury that somebody was homeless, a lot of those jury members are going to hate that person just because they're homeless, just because of the bias, just because what their granddaddy taught them, just because they chose to remain ignorant, chose to turn a blind eye and look away. You got to deal with all those risks. But you also have to risk, if you don't have a jury, that you are having a bench trial. And you can't have a bench trial in Chapel, Nebraska. You just can't do it. But even a quote-unquote real trial is still going to have that judge. See, that's why you don't want to have a bench trial. It's because the judge is going to do what the cops want. That's Western Nebraska for you. We've had dozens of people on my channel from Western Nebraska explain that it's that way. Just like those cops down there. With the situation that happened, that was completely telegraphed. I could see that coming from a mile away. I could see that situation showing up and happening 3 days ago. Because I tried to help Tom to escape from her. Tom is her property. I mean, he's waited on her hand and foot. So yeah, she don't want to lose that. But he's not trying to keep her. He's trying to get her to Portland so he can get rid of her. He can't handle her. Nobody out here wants to deal with that. Ew. That tobacco was a menthol. I forgot how nasty they tasted for a minute. Now, that officer last night, he was wanting to tell me a bunch of things to deter me from being here, but he didn't try to deter me from being in the area. He didn't try to convince me to go to Portland. That's a good thing. That officer was nice, and for the most part, as far as minding his P's and Q's, he did. As far as recognizing that I do know the laws, I have researched them, I am aware of them. He even verified that those were the laws and that I was correct. The stuff that he was stuck on, it's local services. Care and Helping Hands are both local services. And he wanted to keep on doing the whole. What he kept on doing, though, was putting on the extra. The extra. That I heard you the first time, and I already told you at the very beginning that's what I was doing anyway. I already told you I'm not going to be doing it with her. I don't want nothing to do with that situation. I was trying to help out Tom, but Tom was trying to get her back to Portland for everyone in this town's sanity. If Tom needs my help, he'll get it. He didn't do anything wrong to me. He didn't do anything illegal or immoral to me. Him asking for my help is not an immoral act. And of course, the stuff that, like the attention that it was going to bring to me having his stuff there, I spoke about that before those cops showed up. And of course, when they got there, they basically voiced the same thing, didn't they? Like all the stuff that I had the whole time, because these people and their behaviors are telegraphing what's going to happen. I'm telling on my YouTube channel what the possible outcomes are and what the most probable outcomes are and what my fears are of the situation. And of course, I'm right. Of course, I'm right. You guys want to pretend that because I'm autistic that I'm some idiot that grew up in a bubble with electronic maids or some crap like that. Like I didn't grow up in the real world. Like I don't know shit about being homeless because I never been homeless. Like I don't know shit about growing up in the system because I never grew up in the system. Like I don't know shit because obviously every autistic person must grow up in a bubble with servants. I mean, that's how you look at us. You look at us as if we grew up in a bubble and don't know shit about the world that we fucking live in. Meanwhile, you don't live in the world we live in. Literally, you live on the same planet, but you guys living in fucking houses who ask your mommy and daddy for a loan or whatever else it is. But you want to call a homeless person a freeloader. You borrow a bunch of money from your parents. You got your fucking first job and your first car when you were 15, and you got to spend that money from that first job on that first car when you were 15 because you weren't paying rent. You weren't paying for the meals that were going into your belly. Me, I had a job at 15. Hell yes. Did I buy my first car when I was 15? No, I had siblings to feed. My stepdad Scott made enough money to feed his family, but he was also gone for work most of the time, and my mom spent his money on whatever the fuck she wanted. Completely forgot to pay rent for months and months and months at a time. She almost lost that house several times. After like 12 years of paying off a house that she bought for, I want to say like $12,000. It's like $100 a month. Now she was gonna pay 200 a month, I think is what it was. She was supposed to have it paid off in just a few years, but it stretched out to 12 years because my mom is a selfish person who is always, well, like Leatha Plunkett. All that money goes to buying shit that's pretty that my mom wants. The kids are not important. Food is not important. What my mom wants on a whim is important. Same thing with Leatha Plunkett. For her and her husband, well, not husband, but her boyfriend, to rip me off the way that they did, they had to do so as a group. They had to work together to do that. To rip me off for my money, and then Leatha could spend it on whatever she wants. Now, here in this town, we've had people that have talked to us about people they murdered. You guys get to hear those stories, all these guys getting out of prison, and they want to make themselves sound like they're heroes and good guys by saying they beat up a child molester. No, if you're in the same pod as a child molester, you're in an alpha unit or you're in a mental health unit. In a mental health unit, you're not going to have a roommate. They don't allow you a roommate in a mental health unit. I was in a mental health unit. I didn't have a cellie, and they weren't going to make Wesley Reiner my cellie. Reiner, Wesley, 88958. Sexual assault against a child. How do I remember that? Because that nasty son of a bitch was stuck next to me when the prison guards wanted to retaliate against me